Hello, and welcome back to the Let Me Add to That podcast. My name is Elizabeth Graswich, Executive Director of Public Affairs and Communications at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We are the largest regional education agency in the United States. We serve 80 school districts and nearly 2 million children. We are excited to use this platform to take a deep dive into the conversations surrounding our students and schools in LA County. Welcome back. It is Earth Month, and today we are taking a deeper dive into what LACO does to support green schools. I am joined today by two guests. I'd first like to introduce Jema Estrella, who is LACO's Director of Facilities and Construction. Jema, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do related to green schools?
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So as Director of Facilities and Construction, I have two obligations related to green. One of them has to do to ensure that all of our design and construction activities are always as sustainable as possible, that we use as many local materials, that we ensure that our design is always conducive to the well-being of students, and that we are keeping in mind the latest and greatest in renewable efforts out there so that we could implement them in our construction activities. The second activity is assisting with running the Green Team, which is a wonderful effort that we have here at LACO.
And speaking of the Green Team, you are joined by Laura Verbryck, who is well known across LACO for her work in green schools. Laura is our Facilities Compliance Manager. Laura, can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Hello, I work on LACO's Green Team, and then I am also working on the Green School Symposium, which is a great upcoming event that we're going to have in person at the end of the month.
Thank you both for joining us today. So just to get us started, you often hear about Earth Month, but what does that mean?
The first Earth Month was in April 22nd, 1970, and it's become an annual event that encourages environmental awareness and action around the world. And it was sparked by a massive oil spill in Santa Barbara the prior year. Senator Nelson from Wisconsin was inspired by all of the student anti-war protests that were happening at the time and had the idea that if he could harness the energy that was around student protests but focus them on air and water pollution, then he could have a really great event and raise a lot of awareness. So they had teach-ins on college campuses, all on a day that was between spring break and final exams because they thought that they get the most student participation at that time. And they ended up with 20 million Americans demonstrating against the impacts of 150 years of industrial development and deteriorating environment in 1970, and then it's just grown from there. Following Earth Day, since the U.S. has created the Environmental Protection Agency and other environmental laws, including Occupational Safety and Health Act, Clean Air, and Water Acts.
So a lot has taken place since that time. So
Yes.
Why is it important for students and educators to pay attention to climate issues?
One of the reasons why this is such an important topic, not only for the 1970s and 80s all the way to today, is because the planet has limited resources. So we must allow time for the planet to heal and to help it renew, and also to recognize that each of us have a specific spot in that specific process.
You know, one of the topics we hear a lot about is environmental sustainability. What does that mean?
The United Nations defined sustainability in 1987 through the Brundtland Commission as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And that concept was then expanded to 3 pillars: economic, social, and environmental sustainability. And now there are 5 critical dimensions: people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. And those are all interconnected and have consequences and trade-offs for each action that need to be considered.
So when you place those ideas into the school setting, what is it that the education sector can do to support that work?
I think at this moment in time, both the education sector and every person individually need to acknowledge that we have to be committed from multiple areas, a diverse background of people, to be able to bring expertise at all levels. If you're a child, you're going to be learning about it, and that is the obligation at that moment in time. But as a group of adults, and especially the education professionals, we need to be committed to be able to help our new generations in learning about it and learning what we can do to be able to move this process forward.
Now, a few years ago, LACO released a big report and a guide for school districts to help support green initiatives at schools. Can you tell me a little bit about that report?
That report was a really good exercise in acknowledging that all of us have an opportunity to be that committed individual, that ingredient that will be part of the solution and part of that renewal. It specifically acknowledged the process that a community, such as a school district or a local education agency, could go through in garnering that support, and then acknowledge the various components of an outdoor learning environment. The idea being that a teacher could teach both inside in the classroom and then outside as well. And that nature and access to a more natural environment could give students an incredible range of benefits, as proved and recorded in many reports and research projects that have been issued over the past few decades. So it's been quite a success. We kept it simple and accessible with the idea that we all have to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And we have schools and districts across LA County who have started and have been exemplars in green initiatives. Can you give me a few examples of those?
LAUSD, being one of our largest districts, has an effort that began approximately about a year ago. And this particular effort is supported not only by the Board of Education and the president of the board, but also by the entire community. Their effort is specific to establishing a minimum standard of 30% green spaces for all campuses, and directs the entire community to develop that plan to meet that district-wide. It is a monumental effort because there are so many schools in the largest district within LA County, but they are underway. They have a lot of good activity, and LACO, we want to support them.
Long Beach Unified stands out to me. Long Beach has Poly High School, and their green team worked over a 2-year period to educate their board, superintendent, and facilities administrators on the value of transitioning away from using fossil fuels. And that resulted in the board passing a policy August 2022 to move to 100% clean energy by 2045. And that was led completely by the students. So the district will accomplish that by transitioning to zero emission vehicles and machinery, reducing energy and water consumption, installing renewable energy systems, and purchasing clean energy from their utility provider. And then they'll also, with any new construction and modernization, they'll utilize green building standards.
And there are a couple of other examples that we are aware of, recognizing that we have 80 school districts in Los Angeles. But Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District has a district-wide plan on sustainability that was underway since 2019. And their plan defines what sustainability means to the district, to the community, to the local community, and provides a pathway on how to get there. One of the areas that I find really intriguing about that particular plan is that it includes categories such as climate, solid waste, water, transportation, food, nutrition and wellness, energy and renewables, plus education and engagement. They have specific strategies to be reached by certain dates, 2020, 2025, 2030, And what the other piece that I find really good is the fact that it's a product of a collaborative effort that includes the Board of Education, the staff, the educators, the students, the parents, and community members. So what an example of collaboration. Beyond that, Burbank Unified has an environmental leadership process that is very specific on climate. And since their efforts are a bit more recent, it is very specific to the climate change of 2022 on mitigation specifically. And part of what their effort includes is in creating a responsible ecosystem for our educational community through environmental action, leadership, and stewardship. So talk about how this particular group is trying to not only write the goals and the standards, but also to uphold all of us to those standards and teach us through the process that they're going through. And then last but not least, one of the examples I want to share from a while back. This is Walnut Valley Unified School District that received a small grant back in 2013, specifically for Walnut Elementary School, and it was a Captain Planet Foundation Education Grant. And I only mention it because this effort is not new. This effort has been there for a long time, yet there are many of us that are just starting in our efforts. Walnut Valley specifically, the grant was received for only $500, but it was specific to be able to begin their green efforts. And it was specific to students in grades 3, 4, and 5 that were dedicating their time and their effort along with their parents on being highly involved in renovating school gardens. So they had to start with one. And I think what's fascinating today is that we have multiple efforts in many of our school districts, and we welcome this opportunity today to be able to showcase more of what our wonderful districts and lead education agencies are doing.
You make such a great point, too, about the size of the county. And it's so wonderful to see so many different examples across the county because we serve 10 million residents, nearly 2 million children, and what an impact we can have through climate change efforts. So what is LACO doing to help support these efforts at our schools and districts?
So let's start right at the top. LACO Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Deborah Duardo, has been very active in this world of climate change. She's been a member of the K-12 Climate Action Commission at the national level, and in the recent past has been rebranded as This is Planet Ed, but her activity continues on multiple committees and multiple initiatives. And this particular effort is giving not only the opportunity to mobilize and place this topic front and center to be able to bring a community that could bring so much, both in the physical environment, which is part of a little bit of our world and facilities, but also in the education right inside the classroom through our curriculum partners. Beyond that, LACO has championed green and sustainable efforts for 2 decades, and I think that many people may not necessarily know that. We have LEAD schools, and LEAD is the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and that would be for iPoly, International Polytechnic High School, and the LA County High School of the Arts. These 2 schools were at the very beginning of their implementation through new construction, and our superintendent at the time, Dr. Robles, gave us a directive to ensure that all of our construction practices, all of our design activities were very specific to respecting the environment, utilizing materials that were going to be less impacting of the planet. And that was the birth of the Green Team for LACO. Since then, both of the schools received an acknowledgement in leadership in environmental education and design. And also, as we move forward, we were able to achieve other awards for other schools. And that's just within the facilities world. I think Laura could tell us a little bit more about what do we do on a regular basis for our internal staff.
Our internal green team has a lot of regular workshops and events, everything from educational events to plant swaps and other fun social things where we're getting together on an environmental reason. And then April 24th, we have our Green Schools Symposium just around the corner. It's going to be a really great way to connect with teachers, administrators, and facilities leaders on current and upcoming trends in environmental sustainability. If you go to laco.edu and click on Green School Symposium, you can register to attend. It's going to be a really great day of inspiration, resources, and practical experiences. We're going to look at trends that came up during COVID and what the future is looking like for education. We spend 15% of our lifetime in schools and 90% of our lifetime indoors. So when we're talking about the environment, there's a lot that we can talk about related to the quality of the air that we breathe. The amount of carbon dioxide in the air can determine how sleepy or alert we feel. And think about what that means to a student that's taking a test or learning a new subject. And then when you look at the outdoors, a school's typically thought of as a 960 square foot box, and that's where all the learning happens. And then you go outside, and the majority of the school is paved with asphalt up to the fence. So there is a lot that happens when kids are outside that is related to learning. And I like this quote from Vince Madsen, who's a facilities director at Downey Unified. He said that as educational facilities leaders, we now know the benefits of learning outside. When we think about designing school facilities, we need to think outside the box of the classroom.
That's awesome. And thanks for hosting this important conference. What's the to not be missed part of this conference? What will people really want to make sure that they get there for?
The entire day.
I think they will really love hearing from our keynote speaker. His name is Rex Miller, and he's a really great author in the space of education and facilities and kind of the intersection of those. And he is also a futurist. He's involved constantly in a lot of really great research and forward thinking about the future of education. So I think that everyone will love hearing from him and what he has to say. And then there will be some surprises that day too that you won't know about until you get there and see them.
And is the conference open to everyone?
It is, yes.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Green Team itself? One of the things that we talked about earlier in reference to one of the school districts is the importance of getting different stakeholders involved in the conversation. And the Green Team is almost this organic group within LACO who have come together because they all want to make a difference in the world. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you've mobilized them and gotten them interested in different topics, how you organize a committee? Other people may want to do something similar.
Sure. So the Green Team is a group of anyone who's interested that can come together, and they either most have an interest already in some kind of environmental sustainability or they want to learn more. And we started off with events over lunch. People really like to eat and gather over food. So at the very beginning, we had some great sponsors that provided food for us. And we were able to bring in some great speakers to provide us with some educational messages and kind of inspiration and look around the world about what's happening. We learned some great things about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is an area bigger than the size of Texas that's out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And I think that was really mind-blowing for a lot of people because they didn't realize that there was something that large out there that they didn't know anything about.
And that they had contributed to.
Yes. And then, we even had lectures on how to have a container garden. If you don't have the space to have a huge garden, what can you do by having, just containers outside your door if you don't have a lot of space? So we try to pick topics that are a range of things that you can do at home and at work, and just providing that inspirational message and info to people about what they can do so that everybody contribute. Because I think it's important that everyone realizes that their small contributions all add up to the bigger picture.
I really enjoyed one of the recent workshops related to air and the history of smog in Los Angeles. It was, I think, a moment of waking up as to how you individually are contributing on either way, right? In a good way in terms of being aware and making decisions to prevent that additional smog in LA, or that you are maybe contributing. And it's a wake-up call, So there are many, many efforts that we've taken over time. I keep thinking back on some of the things we've done in facilities, for example. Often those efforts are more quiet, but I'll give you a couple of examples. So when it comes to climate, the idea of having wide roofs is important because they will absorb more light and more heat during winter, and they will reject that heat during the summer. And that's exactly what we've been promoting here at LACO. And we talk about our districts when they are going to have an opportunity to redo roofing. And that's a concept that's out there. Typically, people in facilities are the only ones that know about that. But that's something that as a community of educators and administrators that we could make a change, because we're then more aware of how the number of buildings that are contributing could either diminish or increase that amount of heat in the world. Another example is solid waste. Over time, Laura has had moments of opportunity where we've talked about the 3 R's. You remember the 3 R's? Reduce, reuse, and recycle. And the idea of making sure that, that we are conscientious of our daily decisions. In the more recent past, we've been implementing organic waste recycling, which is not only the law, but something that is important to do, to separate your organic waste from the rest of trash that's going to go onto the landfill. And I think that becomes a moment of education and a moment of awareness, and certainly something that in the long run should be helping us all. Water reduction is another effort that we've been taking important action. And it's as simple as turning off the faucet when we're brushing our teeth. When it comes to energy, in the past, Laura created these beautiful stickers to remind you of turning lights off when you are leaving the room, and created a variety of other activities to be able to bring that awareness on energy. When it comes to food, we've been promoting buying local and increasing the amount of and the variety of food consumption, and maybe giving it a try on things that maybe you haven't had before. One example would be plant-based meals. Even something as simple, recognizing that we are a community that consumes a lot, and to recognize where we have that need and where we may have the ability to let it go. With nutrition and wellness, we've hosted yoga in the past. We've hosted meditation in the past as part of our green team. I think those are days that were very early in the development of our current EAST program. Last but not least, but it's the education and the engagement, right? And bringing people together and talking about it. Oftentimes people want to do the right thing. They just haven't thought about it. So that is, I believe, the great benefit of our green team.
Awesome work that they're doing. And I know that one of the things that we're working on is a video series of tips that people can take to make a difference in the workplace. Can you tell us a little bit about what those tips are? What small changes can people do this month that would make a difference?
My favorite has to do with printing. We have communal printers throughout LACO where you can go and you don't need a personal printer at your desktop anymore. If you need to print a private print, that doesn't need to stop you, because you can set the functions or the settings so that it doesn't print until you come up to the printer. And then there's also a new effort that's being rolled out that is for new desktop printers, where you don't have to purchase something yourself. It comes from a vendor that is working with us, and they provide all of the ink They provide all of the paper, they provide everything. And so it's not something that you have to purchase up front, which is really great. It really helps us reduce our waste when it comes to all of the extra toner that somehow is sitting all around when your printer stops working and that you have to then dispose of. So it's a really great way that each person can do their part to reduce a little bit of waste. It would just be by using the communal printers.
And we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be able to showcase all of these different efforts, because we recognize that, individually, one person cannot do every single thing. But I think coming together with the various activities that are easy for each of us to do will make a much bigger impact as a full community.
And for all of our educators out there listening, what are some steps that they can take in the classroom this month that will help students understand how they can make a difference in the world?
I would love to see them take as much learning outside as possible. If it is silent reading time, it could be brainstorming how to, what a poem is going to be about that they're going to write when they get back into the classroom. It could be painting a sundial on the ground and learning about planets and how to tell time from that. There are a lot of low and no cost ways that you can incorporate environmental sustainability into what's happening in the school day. And that is one of the topics that we're going to be covering in the Green School Symposium.
And then also, the California Department of Education a couple of years ago established the California Regional Environmental Education Community Program, which identifies the obligation to give access to resources and opportunities, and that include the identification of environmental concerns at the level that students could learn and could understand. So today, this particular effort is a necessary item for all of our classrooms. The Blueprint for Environmental Literacy is available to be able to provide, additional examples of things that could be done in the classroom so that students learn about this ambitious goal.
What can the average person or student do to create a more sustainable future?
I think the first thing is to take personal responsibility, maybe to find the issue or the problem that you would like to solve. Maybe allow yourself to find your passion and turn that into action that relates to a more sustainable future. And maybe simply saying it could be to allow yourself to be an ingredient in a much larger recipe to preserve the beauty of this world.
Let me add to that. I would say that you should focus on consuming less. Just use less things.
Thank you, Laura, for that tip. I am so inspired. I am going to personally commit to my own water conservation tip by turning off the water while I brush my teeth. So I encourage all our listeners to identify their goal for this month and to help in all our efforts. I just want to thank you both for everything you shared today and all the work that you do in support of our schools and LACO itself. And I also want to encourage our listeners to be sure to sign up for our Green School Symposium. It is a wonderful event that we have coming up on April 24th. And you can find all the information you need on www.laco.edu. So looking forward to seeing you all there. And again, just really appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you for having us.
Please follow the Los Angeles County Office of Education on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Los Angeles COE. That's Los Angeles COE. Or you can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn at Los Angeles County Office of Education.